Hello viewers, wherever you're watching us from, welcome to your weekly State of Affairs program here on QTV. We're broadcasting from Along Kairaba Avenue here in the Gambia, West Africa. I'm your host, Aliou Cisse, with my co-host, Siri Cisse.
Thank you very much, Ali, for having me.
Well, viewers, following the IEC's publication of the provisional voter list for the upcoming election, the Chief Justice of the Gambia, Hassan B. Jallow, established revising codes in all the administrative regions of the country. According to the office of the CJ, the courts will be opening for 60 days, operating for 60 days with effect from 6 September 2021. The revising courts are mandated to hear and decide objections and appeals to the inclusion or exclusion of any name in the voter list. Well, magistrates of the first class are selected to preside over the courts, with sittings to be held in Banjul, Kanifing, Brikama, Brusubi, Mansakonko, Farafene, Kuntawur Kawur, Janjambure, and Basse. Well, joining us this week to discuss more on this issue is Tony F. Mendy. Tony is a final year law student at the University of the Gambia and also a social activist. Mr. Mendy, welcome to the State of Affairs program.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, to start with, is this a constitutional requirement to have revising codes in the first place?
In a way, not directly, though, but I would say yes, it's a constitutional requirement because we know that the electoral degree or the electoral act is established pursuant to the provision of the Constitution, and the Constitution more or less empowers the National Assembly in a way to enact laws that will enable the Commission to execute its function of overseeing electoral matters, and therefore it is a constitutional matter. Let me say it's in line with the Constitution, and it's in line with the electoral laws of this country.
Now let's look at the powers of this courts, the process and powers of the courts. What do you understand?
The courts are empowered basically to more or less carry what we refer to as judicial review of the administrative tax that has been given to the Electoral Commission. That's to say, they have the mandate to verify who is eligible to exercise political right. Let's say under Section 26 of the Constitution, you know that there's a political right given to Gambians. Now the court will more or less certify who is eligible to exercise that political right. And in carrying out that tax, what they will do, they can expunge your name from the list of the provisional list that is released by the IEC. They can add a name that has been deleted there, and so forth. And they can strike a name. Let's say they can strike off the name of a dead person from the list of the master's list of voters. And it is the list that is decided by the court that will be the master's list at the end of the day, and that is the list the list of electorates that will at the end of the day decide who will lead the Gambia or who will head whatever institution that requires election process to take place.
So what is the process now?
The process begins with the IEC notifying the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice establishing the courts across the administrative areas. And when this court opened, any individual who feels like a particular name contained in the list is not eligible to vote, such individual, they refer to him as an objector. So you can object that so-and-so, Mr. Cisse and-so, is not eligible under our laws to be a candidate, or doesn't certify, let's say under Section 12, they have a list of qualification or requirement that an individual needs to certify in order for you to be a voter. Let's say if I have the belief or I have the evidence that you do not certify those requirements, but however your name is contained under the voters list, what I will do, I will object to the court. There's a form provided in the electoral laws. You pick the form and object. Object to the person's name being included in the list. Now, from moving on from that, what follows is that the due law process in court session will follow. It will be public hearing. The individual who claims have to present evidence before the court, and the court will evaluate the evidence. At the end of the day, the court will decide. They can decide that the name of the individual will remain under those voters list, or decide otherwise that the name of that individual will be removed from that voters list. So following that, again, if the court decided my name should not be there, and I feel like the decision of the court, based on the evidence presented to it, was not duly evaluated, I can again appeal to the High Court within 2 days, actually, to hear the matter.
So what happened in a case where someone filed a complaint at the courts and the person is not there or has no legal, like a lawyer to represent him or her? What happened in that case?
When you object to the person's name being on the list and you do not appear in person and there's no legal representation there, the court can strike out the case and deem the person to be eligible to vote.
Sidi, you want to comment?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mendy. Earlier you talked about an objector, like somebody who, has been objected as to not to be in that voters list. In that case, can he take the IEC to court?
Can who?
If the individual who
objects?
Yeah, can you, for example, can somebody bring an objection against the IEC to court? Say, for example, he feels like there was not enough time for him to get his voter's card, or probably his name has been taken off of the voter register and stuff like that.
No, the revising court is not for, cannot, in this instance, I would clearly say you cannot, because the entire electoral process is guided by the regulations provided under the electoral law. There's a declaration made as required by law that from this day to this day there will be voters registration, and if the IEC also deemed that there should be supplementary registration, they will announce and gazette that there will be supplementary registration. Following that, the individual should exercise that due diligence on himself to go and find a voter's card and have it. So you cannot claim that there was not enough time, except otherwise. Let's say I queue. They said this was the last day of vote. I queued there, and the IEC just closed and say no, you cannot vote and so forth. But evidently you cannot.
Earlier on, you talked about the decision of the revising court can go to the High Court.
Yes.
That process, you talked about 2 days. Say,
yes.
For example, somebody felt been discriminated in the process of the revising court and decided to take it to the High Court. Is that where it stops, or can we go further?
Under Section 29(8) of the Electoral Act, it makes the decision of the High Court final.
Okay. So you cannot go to the Court of Appeal or Supreme Court?
Yeah, well, but the Electoral Act, that's what is provided for. The decision of the High Court is final. Regarding the revising court, well, somebody may argue against the constitutionality of that provision.
Yes. Because these courts are here to satisfy us.
Well, very well. And maybe I'm tempted to say, if I doubt the legality of that provision, but legal opinion may differ. But I clearly see something wrong with that provision. But in this instance, when it comes to who is eligible to vote, or whose name is struck out or found wanting during the electoral process, as regard the qualification of the individual to be on the voters list, is for the revising court, magistrate at the revising court, to assess. And then if the individual still feels that the decision of the magistrate court is not sufficient, or is not, the magistrate court doesn't really well evaluate the evidence presented before him, then the individual can appeal. You give notice to the court that within 2 days you have to appeal that decision of the magistrate court. Failure to which you will lose your right to.
Okay. But whose decision was that? Who prescribed that? To say the final, as far as the revising court is concerned, is the High Court.
That is what is provided under Section 29(8) of the electoral decree, the Electoral Act.
That is open to challenge.
Yeah, evidently open to challenge. Anybody can challenge that if you feel otherwise.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. But again, I find something very tricky when it comes to this revising court, and it is something that's going to be very difficult to implement in a way. An individual, the individual objecting to the inclusion of a person's name under the voters list, the master's voters list. Such individual have to serve. You have to come and you have to service the individual whom you're accusing of not being fit to be on the voters list, and you have to locate me.
Yes. You
have to locate me and serve me, and that's where for me the problem lies. And there's one thing that is going to really hamper the effort of those who really genuinely want to cleanse the process. because there's a voters list on there. You have Tony F. Mendy there, and you see you want to believe that Tony is not eligible based on my information that you got, based on the evidence. But where do you locate Tony?
I mean, this is prescribed in Section 22 of the Electoral Act, where you have to go through the process of serving the person.
I mean, 22.5.
Yeah. So let's look at it. In a country where we don't have the perfect address system, if we have any, not perfect. So how is, for example, somebody is going to find me in Bruford to give me a letter? I know, I mean, they would say, Gambia, we all know each other, but there can be many diseases. So in your opinion, you think we should not be living in the, Stone Age? I consider us living in the Stone Age without having address system in a country like the Gambia after 56 years of independence. What's your opinion about that?
It's evident that it is something that is needed, and it goes to show that how much we are less progressive as a society. And again, this incident will also show that we need such to effectively guide our electoral process and so forth. Not even only for election and for other matters. Even not necessarily election. You can want to service somebody during the court process, and you need to struggle to locate the person and so forth. And really, I know political parties who are interested in pursuing in exercising their right to object against the name of certain individual being included in the electoral list will find it difficult to service those individuals, except if you are able to point them out.
But under this revising course, what is the period to determine a case? I mean, we know in the normal course, sometimes it takes months, if not years, to determine one single case. In this case, what is the duration? What is the period given under the Act?
No, in your introduction, I want to believe clearly you indicated that, and that is 24. You have within, the word used there is within 60 days. Okay. So within the time that the magistrate court commence sitting, up to 60 days. They have the entire revising court has 60 days to carry out its process. So within those 60 days, the decision has to be made.
Do you think that's enough?
Exactly. Do you think it's enough? Because already we understand from the IEC there are about 3,000 voters who registered multiple times. Well, so in your opinion, do you think this is enough?
That is
60 days.
Yeah, that's what the Electoral Act provides under Section 24. That 60 days, really, because what is required here is for one to prove under Section 12 of the Electoral Act that you are eligible to be a voter, an electorate in the election.
But that's what they have done to go and get a voter's card. No, so if you come and say they are in, you have to prove.
Yes, it's for the. It depends on the. These cases will not take long, in my own opinion, and the process is not protracted like in the High Court and so forth, where it's not elongated rather, where you have a lot of evidence filing here and there and so forth. But in the magistrate court, just like you have normal magistrate hearings, it will be not as formal as in the High Court. If you claim I'm not a Gambian and I have shown evidence that the court, in its own opinion, believe are really authentic, are really genuine, then the court may immediately make its decision.
You make it so simple. If it is that simple, there will not be a court. There will not be a court. It can be that simple. If you have to come and say, Mr. Mendy is not a Gambian, you have to provide evidence.
Now, I'm speaking on the evidence that you're going to provide. If you provide the genuine evidence, for example, you provide evidence that both of my parents were born in Equatorial Guinea, and I was born in
How are they going to prove that in court?
And if they cannot prove it, then that is a fundamental principle in law. You claim, you must prove. You cannot prove it, then you have no case. So that's it. You can't waste the time of the court. You claim that I'm not a Gambian.
You have to come before the court and say, yes, Tony F. Mendy, the father came so-and-so date from Equatorial Guinea, the mother so-and-so date from Equatorial Guinea.
But you have to show evidence.
Yes, evidence. So this is what I'm saying.
There has to be evidence anyway. But if there's no evidence, obviously, I'm sure the magistrate will not waste the time of the court entertaining just mere
speculations. Can we revisit a little bit of history in terms of this revising codes? They have been here, but they have not been, very successful as right now. What people are talking about.
Well,
Because
I may be too young to delve into the history of the revising code, but one thing that I'm certain of is that the will, the environment, and what we contain right now, what we see, the political atmosphere, compared to let's say the last 15 years and so forth, it's not the same. That is just the reality, and there could have been some manipulation for people to have voters card and so forth and so forth there, but the will or the courage, in fact, for Gambians to go out there and question the authenticity of those individuals obtaining voters card and so forth, it was not there. But now you have the freedom of speech, freedom of press. Here we are speaking and so forth, and political parties are also have more
at liberty
to put more scrutiny in the process, in the election process. So that's why right now you hear a lot of talk about revising code and so forth. So it's about the environment, it's about the level of political participation from among our citizens and so forth that make the process gain more level of interest from across all levels of individuals.
Given what we have observed during the voter registration, we had missions who were out observing the voter registration process. What are some of the grounds that you think will necessitate for someone to actually file a complaint? Or in your opinion, do you think in fact these courts will be overwhelmed with cases?
I don't think they were overwhelmed with cases, because it's a court of evidence anyway. You cannot just come there and claim that so and so doesn't have. You have to prove. If you cannot prove, then it will make it easy for the court. They just dismiss the case. But I foresee certain cases coming up, because political parties were represented in most of, if all, not all the registration centers, and you could clearly hear some grumbles here and there that this doesn't go right.
Are those mere grumbles with a typical Gambian thing? You grumble, but when it comes to let's put the substance out, they'll fall back.
That's what I foresee, in fact, and you put it in the right word. I see, even though some want to claim that this is not a Gambian, blah blah. At the end of the day, they may step back when they know what is required to disprove one being a Gambian, or not being a Gambian rather. So I foresee some cases, because political parties were also taking notes. Some of them were taking notes and so forth during the registration process, and I believe they are aware of what it requires for them to challenge the presence of any name in the voters registration list.
With the attestation that we've seen, quite a lot of people have got their voters card through attestation. We have seen what happened in Banjul, and Banjul is not an isolated case. I think Banjul just catch, it's been in public domain because the mayoress was actually giving the attestation.
Sure.
But you go to villages and towns, these are things that are happening. Do you foresee a lot of challenge as far as those who had their voters card by providing attestation?
If that comes up, I will not be surprised. Let me say that. And it is my opinion that the entire process involving attestation is a bad process. And a country that, let's say, come 56-year-old, 57-year-old, we have come a long way. That anyone born in the Gambia to really have a document of the Gambia that certifies, that contains the status of the individual. And Act number 7 of 2001 that introduced the attestation there.
Yes.
The legality of the entire thing, in my own opinion, is not legal. For me, the entire attestation process, that's my legal opinion anyway, the entire attestation process is not legal. And if it were to be challenged somewhere else, I believe it's going to be struck off.
But it is in the law, and has empowered the alcalos and chiefs to do that. But again, you have political parties in this country who are stakeholders. And they saw interest in maintaining the attestation in our law books. None of them have ever challenged it, in the Second Republic to date, even the First Republic. So I guess it served their interest, right? Because they can bring anyone and get a voter's card.
Okay. Because just a quick one, according to the peace ambassadors to Gambia, they're telling us that, for example, in Basse, we have seen 68% voters were registered using attestation. And also in Masakongo, 60% of the voters registered actually use attestation.
Okay, let me say, it doesn't only serve the interest of the political party, it serves the interest of even a lot of people, let's say, other other part of the country who have not registered, even though they are even Gambians. We accept that they are Gambians, but they have no documentation to show. But if we want to progress, if any party that really wants to progress, for us to move forward from where we are, attestation should not be a thing that should be encouraged. And for me, I don't know the legal framework or the setup in the First Republic, but as it stands, in my own opinion, the amendment to the electoral decree or electoral act in 2001, Act number 7, and that is section 12, that introduced section 12.2e, that introduced E there, making attestation part of the requirement, the documents required for one to register. That process for me is flawed in many ways, because what will happen is that, in fact, the provision doesn't say who is a Gambian. The provision says that an individual who obtains a document from an alcalo or 5 elders, alcalo, a district or an alcalo, certifying that the individual is born in the village, in a particular village or district. That is mere certification that I am born in that district. That doesn't qualify me as a Gambian. You can be born in Banjul, but you are not a Gambian. What is required for one to be a Gambian is the process there. It's contained under
that will be true when the parents are in Gambians.
Yeah. Yes, that will be true when the parents are in Gambians.
But if the parents are Gambians, you have an attestation. You are a Gambian.
I'm saying I'm referring to section 12.
Okay.
12.2e there is saying that the attestation is to attest that you are born in that
particular place,
particular community.
Yeah.
But it doesn't attest that you are a Gambian. The fact that they attest that I was born here, and through that attestation I was born there, I'm given voter's card. For me, the authority to attest or to confirm who's a Gambian or not is clearly outlined under the Gambian Nationality Citizen Act. And even if you look at the Constitution, and who's a Gambian, though it is also there, outlined there. So how do you authenticate who's a Gambian or not? The Gambian Nationality Citizen Act provides all that is required there. So for me, merely having attestation that you are born here doesn't tell anything about
whose responsibility is this? Because we find ourselves in this situation. Not today, it was here. And if we are moving, like you talk about a progressive Gambia, we still need this. But again, others would say it will disfranchise a lot of people. Say, for example, I don't have any document, and I'm a Gambian, then I need to have attestation to get my voter's card, because we do not have the proper system that will register birth or death.
Okay. And it's mandatory. I think what is lacking is proper enforcement of the laws. There are multiple regulations that regulate birth registration. We have birth registration, death and registration act and so forth. There are a lot of acts that regulate all these issues. I think the need for us to look at this, what we consider petty issues, is overwhelming. And these are things that keep us aback. If we can come this far, more than half a century, and we cannot really take account to who is a member of a nation, because what citizenship does is to confirm who is a member of a nation. This nation called the Gambia, we cannot even still decide as a people, like quote unquote a people. We cannot still decide who is a member of this society, of this country called the Gambia.
I think that has been defined by the Constitution.
It's defined
who is a Gambian? Who is a Gambian?
It's defined by the Constitution. That is theory there. It's defined by Constitution, and the Constitution, the other laws such as the Nationality Citizen Act prescribes procedures through which you confirm who's a Gambian and who's not a Gambian. That's why we have ID card and so forth and so forth. But we cannot still tell.
But coming back to the issue of attestation, we all understand on the form there's a portion where you have to indicate the name of your mom and your dad. Yeah. And if they are not Gambians, obviously then you cannot get this voter's card. For example, where I come from, Dongoroba, imagine you have to travel from my village to Mansa Konko to get your ID card. Yeah. So if we are really trying to disagree with the attestation, then meaning so many people will be disenfranchised.
I agree that doing away with the entire process would disenfranchise a lot of people. But I'm saying the process that we have here, the the trouble starts when we failed to put out the proper mechanism for the village that you call that down there, for that individual to be there and be able to register. When at birth, to confirm whether or not the person is a Gambian. We should have all those mechanisms. The mechanism lacks, and for us to progress, let's say, look at people in Banjul. You live in the capital city. You cannot still. You live in the capital city.
Yeah, but not everybody who lives in Banjul, we are born in Banjul.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I can have my aunties from Badibu Salekenya who, you know, got married and then come and reside in Tobacco Road.
Yeah. I agree.
Probably doesn't have a registered birth
certificate. Regardless of where you are born, the law provides that you are supposed to register. That's what the law provides. Failure is failure on the part of the parents and failure on the part of the government to enforce that law, or failure part of the authority responsible, is the cause of all this. So I think progressing on, I know it will not be a popular opinion anywhere that we should do away with attestation, but it is my opinion that it is so much.
I mean, quickly, this is not to do with your area. You're here legally to talk about some of these things. I just want to find out from you, since Aliu said you're an activist. Do you actually know, or do you have a percentage of the number of people in terms of age brackets who have used attestation? I think that will also help us. If you don't know, maybe at some point when we have the IEC, we may know. Because, say for example, if Aliu, who is very young, had to use an attestation, I would definitely have an issue with that.
Why?
Or, I mean, he should be able to, his badge should be registered.
Unfortunately, I didn't use attestation.
you have your proper documents. I won't be able to tell the percentage of individuals that use attestation. That will be for the IC. IC should be able to tell that because they have all the data with them. And I hope moving on in the next decade, when we are looking forward for another general voter registration, we would have enforced our laws and call on Gambians to have voters card.
Is there any legal implication, sort of, when you file a complaint against someone's, voter's card, and then it is found that your complaint is false? Is there any legal implication against that individual? For example, I file a complaint against City. That City's voter's card is not a Gambian, and then it comes out that my claim is a false one.
The court could award cost, I want to believe, at certain instances. Let's say they are very frivolous, you just move out there just with bad intent, and evidently there's nothing else. You spoil my reputation, you waste my time, I pay my fuel, hire a lawyer to come and defend me rather. And at the end of the day, you just go to the court and nothing happens there. It happens that you have zero evidence. No, you just wasted out of the court. There may be a cost award.
I know we have legal aid in the Gambia.
Yeah.
In this circumstance, say for example, somebody came to court, to the revising court, and say I'm not a Gambian, and I want to have a defense, and I cannot afford one. Would I be allowed to legal aid?
Legal aid, I think they operate in terms of. As much as I'm aware, in terms of capital punishment, death sentence, and so forth, I'm not at the level of the magistrate courts. So they operate at the level of the superior court, I want to believe. So I don't think it's necessary for one to. In fact, legal representation is not really very crucial there. It's actually crucial. Let me retract my statement. It's actually crucial in any proceeding, legal proceeding. But you cannot. I don't think you will be able to benefit from that.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you said, during the registration, we had all these, most of these political parties having their agents at the different polling stations. Are you in any way foreseeing maybe the political parties taking the lead in challenging some of these issues regarding the voter registration, and rather individuals, you have their parties taking the lead, gathering the facts, and they will present it before the court?
Well, I think who.
Like we have seen, we have had the president that's saying the NPP, is not going to take anybody to the revising court, but they are ready to defend their supporters, whoever is taken to the court. While the UDP is saying, they're assessing the information gathered, and if there's any justification to do so, they will.
No, I don't want to speak in specific what political parties that want to or that doesn't want to. I think anybody who has the evidence and want to object to the being of a particular name in the attestation in the voters list can do so. And I evidently you also see the parties have interest, and they are key stakeholder in the entire election process. No, they are the ones. They are the very ones seeking to put up candidates. They are the very ones seeking to implement their policies when they come to power. And how they come to power and who has the authority to decide who comes to power. They should have interest in that, and anybody should have interest in that. If anybody feels, of course, certain people were favored to be there, and others are disadvantaged from being there, you can bring up the case, and it will at the end of the day help to cleanse the process, because when the court decides and when the revising court make their ruling, and if you want to appeal at the High Court and they make their ruling, that's the end of it. So when the High Court forwards the list back to IEC, then that list becomes final. Nobody will question the authority of the authenticity of Tony's name in the electoral process.
All right, thank you so much, Tony F. Mendy. Well, viewers, you reminded that you're watching State of Affairs here on QTV. I'm your host, Aliou Cisse, with my co-host, Cisse, and our guest tonight is Tony F. Mendy, a final year law student at the University of the Gambia and a social activist. We'll go for a short break, and when we return, discussion continues. Hello viewers, welcome back from that short break. You're watching State of Affairs here on QTV. We're broadcasting from Along Kairaba Avenue behind QCell building here in the Gambia. I'm your host, Aliou Cisse, with my co-host, Cisse. And like I said, our guest tonight is Tony F. Mendy, a final year law student at the University of the Gambia and a social activist. Well, before we go on the break, you were talking about the issue of filing another appeal at the High Court. Is that the limit? Can someone proceed to the Supreme Court or Court of Appeal if possible?
In my own opinion, that should have been the case.
Okay.
Or that can still be the case. But what is provided for under the Electoral Act is such that the decision of the High Court is final on all matters relating to the eligibility of any name to be under the voters list. That is for the High Court to finally decide, and when they decide, and that will be the end of the process. Yeah.
Sidi?
I think we need to still go on back on that subject of the objectors.
Mm-hmm.
They may
Mm-hmm.
have legal representation.
Sure.
They may have the support of certain groups,
Yeah.
whether political parties or that. If they do,
Mm-hmm.
what about ordinary people? I mean, is this not seen as a disadvantage?
For ordinary people to do what?
To go to court.
No, the court is conducive and is well receptive of anybody. If the court notes, the court will not disadvantage anybody because you don't have legal.
Yeah. So if I say Aliou Cisse is not a Gambian and I choose to go to court, I can represent myself.
Sure. Actually, I said I did indicate earlier on that there's a form attached. There's a form, a schedule in the Electoral Act that's attached there. So it's for you to pick up that form. You believe that the individual, Aliou, is not eligible to be a voter. You pick up the form and then you fill it and then file. On the due date, you present your evidence. You service him first, and then when he also has his defense, on the due date, you all present your evidence. And the court will evaluate.
Going back to serving him,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen in courts presently, the court will serve.
Yeah.
But if I understand well here, correct me if I'm wrong, with these revising courts, me who's, wish to challenge Mr. Cisse have to serve him, right?
Yeah.
Who serve?
The person who wishes to challenge. I think even in the normal court process, the person who wishes to challenge serves.
No, but
Except otherwise. Actually.
Will it be in the other courts, it is taken by the court.
Yes.
Okay, if I file a case against whoever, the court will do that.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
In this revising court, who take that serve? Is it me who is challenging Aliou, or is it the revising court has the mechanism to serve?
No.
Because you don't expect me to turn around and say, Aliou is not a Gambian, and I just walk into his house and said, Aliou, here is your letter, I'm taking you to court because I'm objecting you as a Gambian. You are provoking him for a fight.
You don't. You know, anybody who comes to service, that are servicing in court in civil procedure is a wide area by itself. Whoever comes to serve must have come to serve under the authority of the court.
Yeah.
So if I come to serve you cannot anyway rebel against me. I service you here.
That's a court staff or
yes.
a court messenger or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're talking about me going into somebody's house to give him a letter to serve him. That's what I'm finding out.
Yes.
In the revising code, who does that job? Is it?
Yeah, in the revising code,
Yes.
section 224(5), it is done by the objector. The person objecting that so and so is not a Gambian and is contained in the voters list, such individual should not be there. It is the person objecting who should serve the individual. If you object that I'm not a Gambian,
Yes.
you file a claim you file a claim at the magistrate court. You fill the form and file a claim at the magistrate court. You then have to serve.
Yeah. But what if you can't find him? And two, if you refuse to take that serve?
It's a request. I mean, this is what the law provides, that you have to.
If you can't find him?
If you can't find him,
Then he's not in court. Then he stays in the voter register.
You cannot determine a matter that involves me, that have a vested interest or entitlement there. I have a right to vote. You're deciding on my right to vote, and you choose not to hear from me. The court will only do so in exceptional circumstances where, let's say, the individual, there's proof of service. I come to the court, I prove that I did serve him, I did serve Aliu, the claim that I made against him. And Aliu is telling the court that he will not come to the court. That's other thing. But the court, where it is clear, because there has to be proof of service, the individual who served has to come back to show the court that indeed the individuals have been served. You fill the certificate of service to show that I have served so and so.
Can I pay somebody to serve, to take this letter?
Yeah, they have, even the court clerks, the court clerk may do that if you can point, if you can serve as a pointer, if you can go up to Alice and say, this is Alice's compound. If that can be done, if that can happen, you serve as a pointer, and the court will serve on your behalf, provided you follow what is required. But where I am not served, you are not able to trace me or to point at me for the person that you want to serve on your behalf, then the court cannot proceed to hear the matter. That's why the issue that you are talking about, the issue for us to need to have proper labeling of our street and so forth, and proper addressing system and so forth. All this boils down to it. Reasonably, I don't want to believe that you claim that I'm not a Gambian without you even knowing who I am or where I live.
As you explained further, Mr. Mendy, I saw quite a lot of weaknesses in this case, in this process.
In the process.
In the process. Because, I mean, going to go and find somebody who you are alleging he's not a Gambian, right?
No,
may be difficult.
There are
and two,
weaknesses.
The other issue is going to meet that person.
No,
usually when some of this happen, there is acrimony between them. Even in the villages, in the communities, there is a form of acrimony. Probably before Tony went to and get this form and go to the revising code, you've already talked to your friends, your neighbors. I'm going to go and make sure that CD is coming off this voter register. And that word might have gone around in the community. We live in a very small community. And in that, I will be sitting home waiting for you to come and want to go into my house or into my compound.
What I'm seeing, you must appreciate what the legal process here. There's no weakness there. What we don't expect you to claim that Tony is not a Gambian or Cisse is not a Gambian just for the sake of entertainment or Facebook. No.
I've seen the merit.
In this instance, what the court, just allow me a bit, what is required there? If you claim that I am a Gambian, the person that you claim is not a Gambian. For instance, you don't even know me. You don't even know where I live. You have no idea which district I live, or let's say I actually live in Maramakunda village. The entire Maramakunda, you have no idea where I live in Maramakunda. You have no idea where I work, because all these are part of the requirement of service. You either You can serve me at home, you can serve me at workplace, you can serve me where I'm constantly at, you know. You can even serve me through friends. There are several means of service. There can be direct service, there can be substituted service, there can be even out of country service, but all that it's more or less, it's more in the proper civil procedure. And I don't foresee that coming to at the level of magistrate court, at the level of the revising court. But you cannot just claim that I am not eligible to vote, to be a voter. Why should you have no idea of who I am, where I am, or what I work, or proper address system of who I am?
Are you telling us with that terrible addressing system, then perhaps many cases won't be heard?
No, regardless of the terrible address system, here, you are objector, you are objecting, just like a claimant in a court. You are claiming against somebody. You must have known the person whom you are claiming against. Because this person right now, let me bring it to this level. I consider the claimant to be someone offended, that the fact that an individual who's not Gambian is trying to come to my country and participate in the electoral process. Like I own my compound, somebody's coming there to do something. I know my compound. I know the rules that are set there. This individual is coming to violate it. I'm being aggrieved, I'm being angered. So I'm rising to say this individual should not do this. The one rising to say this individual must know that individual. They must have the evidence that this individual doesn't belong to this compound. So if
if I get this right, it seems all the work are done by the objector.
Evidently.
Yeah, because the court just sits there, you go and buy your form, fill your form, and then go and serve. And then the court sits and listens.
No, there are various means of service. You can substitute service.
You can substitute or whatever, but it is all done by me, for example, who wants to challenge you.
Sure.
So the court just sits there and then wait. And when we come to court again, I have to prove to them
that service done.
It's tedious.
It's not tedious. Maybe the explanation may sound so, but
but the process itself, you have to buy that form, fill it up, go and give that that serve, and then go to court and then to prove all what you established to be the facts that Mr. X or Miss X is not a Gambian.
But let's assume that is even the case. I'm not sure if the form is on sale, but even if whereas that is the case, you have an interest. Does it worth that I go through all this process to safeguard the sovereignty of this country? Because the sovereignty, you remember what the preamble of the Constitution provides. The sovereignty of the Gambians lies with our people, the Gambians. If I see the need that I need to preserve the sovereignty of the Gambia, I can do that. It doesn't.
Are you foreseeing on what you just said, on the basis of sovereignty, or on the basis that I'm challenging Mr. X because he's associated with political party X? What are you seeing here?
No.
I think some people may just go to court.
Those who, very well. That's why there needs to be a process. There needs to be that it doesn't have to be that it doesn't have to be watered down to nothing that anybody can just go and say, let me go. Let's say if the form is free, let me just go and pick the form and just claim against this individual. You have to establish. And we should not look at it from the perspective of political parties against political parties. It should be strictly on the perspective of citizens, safeguarding their country, their sovereignty, that vested right. The right to exercise, the right to political right under Section 26 is meant for Gambians. I know that's one thing that differentiates you. I live in the Gambia here. You can be a Ghanaian, I'm a Gambian. What difference does it make? It makes a difference that I decide as to how this country is shaped, how it is run, who governs it, what are the policies that will affect my life. I decided, I as a Gambian, and it affects you as a Ghanaian who doesn't decide. But where I see that the Ghanaian want to decide, like I decide in my country, I can. For this, I'm just
in
using
a case
Ghanaian.
where the Ghanaian have naturalized, and you don't know about it.
I'm just using Ghanaian as an example. Ghanaian friends, no squash about that. No, if they're naturalized, of course, under Section 12A of the Constitution, there are processes there. Even if I naturalize, I'm a Gambian, I can vote. Even though I may not be able to stand as a president, I can even have dual citizenship. I can vote, but I will not be able to stand as a president. So those circumstances are well addressed. But in this instance, we are trying to safeguard the fact that it is us Gambians who should vote in the presidential election and nobody else.
But if we look at the issue of decentralization, we are saying, okay, like, there'll be sittings in Farafenni. For example, you live all the way in Nyomi and then you have to travel to Farafenni.
Yeah.
What's your take on this thing? The decentralization, for me, it's not really accessible.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree to some extent. Even our entire court, you look at our courts, the decentralization of our court system here. You have, let's say, one magistrate court here. You travel how many kilometers, or miles before you have another one. And so, but it shows that we need to grow as a people, as a country, as a people together. We have a lot of things to do. However, I still feel like anybody who really has an interest, who have evidence, gathered facts, would not mind traveling to have such objection made in the court.
Mr. Mendy, earlier on we talked about one of the problems we may see as far as this revising code is concerned is the non-address as far as the Gambia is concerned. Apart from that, what are your other fears as far as this revising code is concerned?
I have no fear. Except that
concerns, maybe.
Yeah, I have a concern that for me, it's the timing. We are 99 days today. If they count how many days left to election, we are 99 days today off from to election on election date, December 4th. The revising code will have 60 days. That is how many months? 60 days. That is 2 months. 2 months. 2 months appropriation. We are in. August.
Are you saying 90 days? 99 days to election?
Yeah, we have 99 days. Well, 3 months something to election. And you subtract 2 months there, we will have 30 something left. Nomination have to come, campaign have to come, and so forth. And for me, genuinely, this can all be done until there is a confirmation of the electoral list. Because part of the requirement for one to be a candidate, you must be in the voters list. You cannot be a candidate when you are not in the voters list. And the final voters list, the master's voters list, have to be confirmed by the court.
But when they say for 60 days.
Yeah. Within
60 days. Yeah. Within 60 days.
It can be shorter anyway.
It can be shorter.
Yeah.
So I think when nobody show up in these courts for a week or more, I think they may wrap it up.
They could, evidently.
I think that's why they use the technicalities there within.
Yeah, because as we speak, if you have a complaint, people are not taking the forms.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, there's the fee attached to it. So obviously, they have to get their forms before the actual sitting starts.
Yes. Yeah. They have to get the form anyway. But every decision of the court actually have 60 days. Yeah. Within 60 days to make every decision that they have to make. So let's say 60 days and then again nomination and so forth. We seem to be running against time, and for me,
who's making is that? It shouldn't be difficult to answer.
It's not evidently difficult. I think IEC could have done better, and I am still asking them to do better.
Yes. Because
election is a very crucial process, when it comes to Africa in general. Elections are not. We don't have winners. We don't have losers. Everybody is a winner at the end of the day. They don't say I win or they massage. Complaints here and there. So that's why we need to make sure that the process, we're going to have 100%, we're going to have 100% run smoothly to the end. There will be hitches here and there. But certain issues are really, they could be avoidable.
But in this case, if you don't get this thing right, do you think it's going to affect the election?
Or the implications? Even if it affects the election, but even if there's non-compliance with the Act, on Section 128, even there's no non-compliance to the Act, however, that non-compliance doesn't affect the election substantively. We still go ahead. If the 60 days is observed strictly and then the following week they announce nomination and so forth, I think there would not be much hitches. But in my own opinion, I just want that for us to be settled with the master's voters list. Let me put it in that way. I want to see my vote there at the end of the day, master's voters list. So I want to have it confirmed before the next by the end of September, so I'll be able to prepare the ground for campaign nominations and so forth. So
what happened in a case where we exceed the 60 days and then there are still cases? Are they going to drop those cases or they will still continue? They're going to proceed with it because it's mandatory. In fact, the word used there, if I can recall, is shall.
So it's mandatory for even the revising court to finish and make decision on every case within 60 days. And for if you want to appeal, you only have 2 days to appeal to the High Court to make that known.
Yeah, but what about if the matter have gone to the High Court and the 60 days are elapsed and the High Court is still looking at these cases? What will happen?
What the High Court will look at, there's a decision made against you at the magistrate court or for you, and somebody else want to appeal against the decision.
Yes.
The decision there, the appeal must strictly be based on the merit, like the substance of the case, that the magistrate doesn't properly evaluate the evidence presented before him. And that's why the magistrate court is a court of record. In this instance, the revising court rather, they'll keep the record, everything else. So it's just a matter of the High Court taking that record of the magistrate court and having a relook of it again to really say, yeah, the magistrate really make the right decision, or really it erred, it made a mistake here. Simple as that.
So where is the issuance of this attestation in this whole thing? For example, if you are filing a complaint against me for the voter's card, which I got through an attestation, where does this leave the alcalo or the mayor, for example, in the case of Banjul?
You file a case because
yes.
you receive voter's card because of
an attestation. Does it also involve the alcalo himself?
No, you see, anyone who violates the provision of the electoral laws can be dragged to court. Generally, that's just general. If the alcalo, if I have evidence that the alcalo knows evidently that I'm not a Gambian, I don't live, my parents are not Gambians. Let me just say I'm not a Gambian, and he gave me attestation for me to have that. And let's say I'm not born in that village, and he still gives me, the alcalo could be found wanting. But in this instance, and there are repercussions for one deliberately violating the electoral laws. There are some penalties attached to that. One may even lose your voter's card if not mindful. That's why we need to tread with caution. And the desire to win may not necessarily lead us to doing things that are not necessary or that are unlawful in the entire electoral process. And it goes beyond mere registration. Even during the registration process, during campaign and so forth, our conducts are all prescribed. Conduct of political parties, conduct of electorates during the voting process, and even post-voting process. There are certain things that one needs to really be mindful of, so that we have an election that is credible and that will reflect the will of the people.
Sorry?
When it comes to the revising courts, as you said earlier, they are keeping records.
Yeah.
What if they turn and find out a case against somebody that may, or they may consider to prosecute that person for a crime that has been committed?
I don't quite understand your question. I mean, there are records
in the process of the revising court.
Yes.
Yes. You talked about they have evidence before them.
Yes.
That you have gone out willfully to violate or contravene the law.
Mm-hmm. And obtain.
Yes.
And obtain.
Yes.
The magistrate court, of course, will decide. In this instant, the decision regards either it's not a criminal trial. The decision of the magistrate pertains to whether or not
you should be in the list.
You should be in the list.
But you not be. It's not a criminal trial.
No, evidently
it cannot be further.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure that it can be further from that, because say for example, I'm found bribing somebody to vote for me, or I found helping someone who's not eligible to vote obtain a voter's card. I am the one who did that, and the court found that I did that. No, it can struck out my name from the master's voters list.
That's the applicant. That's the person who has the voter's card.
Yes.
What about the one who helped? Because you see, in countries like the UK, if you are found to be assisting or being involved in some of those things, you can be barred from participating in an election.
The same is as in Gambia. You can be barred for the next 5 years, or I think 5 years. If I'm in the electoral laws, there are punishment to that. Even bribery and so forth. Even treating and so forth. There are a lot of punishment. There are a lot of penalties prescribed for certain conduct that are prohibited during in the entire election process. So anybody can be a victim if you deliberately violate. You can lose your right to vote. And that's why when the IEC threatened that they're going to struck off the names of those people, 3,000 and so, a little bit above 3,000 people who are found voting multiple times, and that can really happen.
Multiple times.
That can really happen. If just go to that gets processed to court, they're going to lose. They may lose their right to vote for the next 5 years, because the right for franchise, the right to vote.
They can challenge the revising courts. Those who IEC wants to take off, can they challenge the revising court?
It can. And okay. Anybody. In fact, I think IEC. I want to believe IEC can, by this, in fact, struck it out. You know, there is this argument that IEC can, if you present the valid document, IEC cannot reject and so forth. For me, I find it to be very baseless, because IEC can really, that amendment in 2001 that introduced section.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tony F. Mendy, final year law student at the University of the Gambia and a social activist. Thank you so much for being on the State of Affairs program. And Sidi, thank you so much once again for being here. It's a pleasure having you. Well, viewers, with that, we come to the end of this program of State of Affairs this week. Like we said, we were discussing about the revising course, and our guest was Tony F. Mendy, last year law student at the UTG and a social activist. Do join us next week. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you.